as Clay and I have been telling you, Clay in particular focuses in on this point, you can't leave it to the refs.
Nope.
You've got to get the vote count necessary so that even if there are some shenanigans, and we're looking at you, Pennsylvania, going to make sure that it's enough that the Republicans come out on top. Marsha Blackburn, Senator of Tennessee, because we're in Tennessee. She's going to come and spend some time with us today on the show. Yesli Vega, another phenomenal female Republican running for office, a veteran. She's going to be with us. She's running in Virginia for Congress. And Tudor Dixon in Michigan. I mean, Clay, for me, some of these governor's races are among the most important. And we can really start there for a second. We'll get into some more on the Senate and obviously the Herschel's race in Georgia, Oz in Pennsylvania. We have Laxalt joining us today. But Tudor Dixon's running against Whitmer in Michigan. It's looking possible, which may be of the gubernatorial races, the biggest upset, right alongside Lee Zeldin, who is running neck and neck with Kathy Hochul in New York. And the Democrat apparatus is throwing everything they have at New York. It's like the firewall for the big blue state of New York. They're trying to do whatever they can. Interesting, Clay, at the very last minute of this election, we are 24 hours away from people being in the midst of voting on Election Day. And I know millions and millions of early votes have already been cast. It's like tens of millions, I think, at this point already.
No doubt.
Right?
Yeah.
This is so funny. It's almost like all of a sudden, Clay, some of these lib anchors and Democrats start sounding like they've been listening to the Clay and Buck show all this time and just finally waking up. Here is MSNBC anchor Stephanie Ruhle. She's confronting Governor Hochul on the crime issue in New York. Play clip 1.
But I'm going to interrupt you then. Here's the problem. We don't feel safe. You might be working closely with Mayor Adams. You may have spent a whole lot of money, but I walk into my pharmacy and everything is on lockdown because of shoplifters. I'm not going in the subway. People don't feel safe in this town. So you may have done these things, but right now we're not feeling good. We're worried we could be San Francisco.
We're worried we could be San Francisco, another blue city. Clay, how many times have we in the last 18 months talked about everything on lockdown in the pharmacies? Subways are unsafe. Suddenly Democrats, it's like they're seeing reality.
That's why, to me, as we sit here, I can't wait to officially cast my ballot. I like going on Election Day by and large. So tomorrow morning, I'll wake up, I'll hop out of bed, I'll go cast my ballot. And I think one of the major takeaways is going to be how poorly Democrats did discussing the things that people care about the most. And I give credit to Stephanie Ruhle there. That's on MSNBC, right? Directly confronting Kathy Hochul about the situation in New York right now. And, Buck, you mentioned governor's races. And I just want to make this clear because we got people listening all over the country in many markets where you guys might have gotten used to losing, where you haven't been able to be excited to go vote. I want to just hit some of these states. New York, real chance. Michigan, Wisconsin, Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona. A lot of these states, even if you take out of the Senate and the congressional races, have a really good chance to elect Republican governors, either to knock a Democrat out of office or ensure that a Republican, a new candidate, is able to come in and take over. Kansas. There is so much at stake. And I know you can speak to this really well, Buck. As a New Yorker who's been beaten down, it's a tough feeling to go into a ballot box and know so often when you're voting, my guy or girl has no chance to win this election. And I feel like the beatdown on that can become sort of staggering. We got to make sure, and we're going to talk about this. Fetterman's camp is already saying, it's going to take a week maybe to know who won the Pennsylvania Senate race. And I know a lot of you are apprehensive and you're nervous about what is going to happen. The only thing you can do at this point is ensure that your vote is cast. At this point, if you are nervous about the outcome, I understand that in the wake of 2020. But, Buck, what else are you going to do? You're just going to allow them to take your voice away by not even attempting to go vote? We need landslides, and we need landslides, that red tsunami we've been talking about, Buck, that take it out of the referee's hands, that make it impossible to actually get all this sort of monkey business involved in our election process.
You've coached baseball.
Yeah.
I've coached soccer. And it's the same thing when you get into whether it's the dugout or halftime or whenever you're talking to your team. Sometimes the refs are against you. It does happen. But it doesn't help anybody to say, well, the refs are against you, so what are you going to do? You might as well just not try as hard. No, you try harder, actually.
Yeah.
You try to run up that scoreboard. You fight and you keep pushing because sometimes luck of the draw isn't on your side. And we all know when you're looking at the Democrat machinery in Pennsylvania for counting votes, luck's not going to be on the GOP side, I can assure you. So you've got to get out there. You've got to vote. One more thing, though, on the New York governors. We're going to move it all around the country because there's so many critical races going on. I mean, think about the scope of what's in play. Clay laid it out for you. Yeah, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, New York, Michigan, Oregon, but also now, maybe something up in Washington State, maybe some congressional seats in Virginia that people thought were safe, in California. So a lot of stuff is in play right now. But really, for me, one of the I've walked past this sign in Times Square. I've taken photos of it just so that no one can claim that this isn't true, because that's one of the things on social media. The libs go, oh, that didn't happen to you. Whenever you say,
anything, yeah.
Some lunatic without a shirt on came running at me and threw a trash can at me, that didn't happen to you. Actually, it did. Here is Lee Zeldin pointing out the Times Square gun-free zone sign is among the dumbest things in the history of recent American politics. Play clip 2.
If you could just put up a sign in Times Square and say gun-free zone, problem solved. Why not have signs up that say stabbing-free zone? Put up a sign that says you're not allowed to push people in front of an oncoming subway car. And that's it. It's over. Now, listen, the reality is, I just a few weekends ago had a drive-by gang shooting on my front yard. There are ways that we can hold these criminals with illegal firearms accountable. Kathy Hochul says that American Express, MasterCard, and Visa should flag all attempted purchases of firearms as suspicious. I guarantee you, the person who acquired that firearm, I don't know who the person was. I don't know how they acquired it. I don't know what the motive was. But it didn't start with a swipe of their American Express card.
He's got a point there, and he got many points. And I would just say, one, you can see, Clay, that even in a time of very high crime, what the Democrats want to do is explain away their own failures on criminal justice, antagonize lawful gun owners. The only people that the Times Square zone would theoretically annoy are people that are lawful concealed carry permit holders in New York, which because of a recent decision in the courts, there should be more of those. There aren't that many yet. I would just note, though, because I look, as a New York guy, I focus in on that race because there's a lot of, you're lucky. Here in Tennessee, things are looking pretty good politically. You don't have to worry about it.
That's correct.
New York, it has been a highway to hell lately, okay? It has been rough, but it's not just New York where there's a chance to really turn things around for a major city. We haven't talked much about this, but in Los Angeles, there's a mayor's race going on right now, and Chris Pratt, who is one of my favorite actors, both comedic and dramatic, seems like a very nice guy. Heard good things about him from people who've worked with the guy. He tries to say things like, I stay out of politics because I want to unite the country. He does what you and I want big celebrities generally to do, which is please entertain, bring us together. He's like, guys, like Los Angeles has turned into a cesspool. It is madness. And we need this former Democrat billionaire, I think his name's Caruso,
that's right,
to be the next mayor instead of Karen Bass, who is a community organizer. And
she was one of the finalists for Biden when he picked Kamala.
Yep. And so even in Los Angeles, you have people coming forward to say that here he said the city's gradual decline into pain and utter disarray is too much. People see it, they feel it, they know it. And I think, Clay, what we've seen the last week or so, Democrats waking up to the reality of, the reckoning is happening. People are seeing reality despite all the propaganda.
Yeah, and I would say this, too. Go vote yourself. Also, now is the time to have conversations with people who are politically aligned with you that might not be as likely to go vote. Maybe it's your elderly mom or dad. Maybe it is one of your good friends or family members that was disgusted so much by 2020 that they don't even want to talk about the political landscape. I am, and you know this, Buck, and I think most of our listeners do, a super optimist in that every election's only 2 years away. And I really do believe that if Republicans do the best job of making the case that they are going to win elections. And I think Republicans have done a tremendous job in this election cycle of talking about crime, of talking about inflation, and of talking about the border and the reckoning that has to come over failed COVID policies. That's why I think we're going to see a red tsunami. But, man, there are still a lot of people, probably some listening to us right now, Buck, that are like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to take the time to go out and vote. And I just have to tell you, I can't imagine how sick I would feel in my stomach if I'm waiting to see what the election results are going to be. And in many of these places, it's super tight, and I didn't do everything I could, or at least the bare minimum, and actually spend the time to go have your voice heard.
Look, I think one of these congressional races, maybe even one of these Senate races, is going to come down to hundreds
I think you're
of
right.
votes.
Yes.
That happened with Norm Coleman and Al Franken, if you remember, the Senate race up in Minnesota. It was, the difference was hundreds of votes at one point. I mean, and then all of a sudden there are votes being found in the trunk of a car and weird things were happening up there. No surprise. It is going to be, I don't know where, but it is going to be razor thin in a number of these places. And certainly you're talking about a Senate seat, but even when you're looking at some of these congressional seats, one seat difference could make a whole lot of difference going forward. It depends, because some of these, look, I think we have a crop of Republican all-stars in the making in the political scene here. On the congressional side, we've had a lot of them on the show, and on the Senate and governor's races, but whether or not they win could come down to a very, very small margin. So we've got to get everybody mobilized out there. Please vote. And for everyone who's like, oh, of course, Buck, of course, Clay, I'm going to go out there and vote. Okay. What about your second cousin Phil, who yells at the TV all the time whenever it's CNN at the gym or at the, in the restaurant, and he wants something to change? Get him to get out there too.
Yeah, and I'm not, I wish I was more confident, Buck, but I get so many, I know you do too, so many messages from people who say, I don't trust that the outcome is going to be reliable. I don't trust that it's going to be honest. I think they're going to cheat. And I understand that, but what's the response? Well, you're just not going to vote? You're
that is
giving
a vote.
Away.
Unfortunately, I won't vote because it doesn't matter. Look, if you can't vote for some reason, you can't vote. But if it's I won't vote because it doesn't matter, it's a vote for the lib apparatus.
That's right.
You're helping them. So just understand that's sitting it out when it's close like this is just helping the bad guys stay in charge, stay in control. That's the reality.
And I think you're 100% right that there are going to be some of these races that are so tight. Look, Buck, I'm going down as soon as we finish the show today. I'm going down to Cobb County in the Atlanta suburbs to go speak at Herschel Walker's event. I'm hopping on a plane. I'm headed straight down there because they asked me if I would do it. And I thought, man, if I can help swing just a few votes in Georgia, given how tight that's going to be, I would feel bad if I didn't do everything that I could. I met with Herschel on Saturday, interviewed him at Outkick to allow him to tell his story through us. And I'm speaking. I know you're doing the same thing, Buck, trying to do as much as I can with the energy that I have so that tomorrow when all these election results start coming in and we're having the Clay and Buck party, I'm not thinking, oh, I wish I had just done X or Y. I want to leave it all on the field. I want to put every single asset I've got out there. And that's what I would encourage every one of you to do as well. Look, every 2 years, we are on election eve right now. Everybody should be excited, but I want everybody running through the tape. I want you all going full sprint into the finish line and making sure that everybody around you is too.